climactic.
Hey everybody, I am recording from a new place today. Sorry if the sound isn't perfect. But anyways, as you can tell, if you've read the title of this podcast, that this is going to be a not safe for work, explicit episode, talking about a taboo subject. Tugging one out, shaking hands with the milkman, marching the penguin, polishing the banister, choking the chicken, finding Nemo. doing a Meg Ryan. I'm reading these from Mashable. DIY. Taking matters into your own hand. All right. Thanks, Mashable. It's just like a few of 50 that they have. Some of those are pretty funny. If any of you follow hockey, the Phoenix Coyotes, the Arizona Coyotes, which I did an entire podcast episode about long before I ever knew I was moving to Utah, long before I ever knew that the Coyotes would be moving to Utah, they decided to shut down their organization, sell it to the NHL commissioner, and resell it as a different organization to the owner of the Utah Jazz. But that's probably a conversation for a different episode. But the point of all that where I was getting to with all of that is that they're looking for a new name for the team. The name the Coyotes is staying in Arizona, so that if Arizona gets another team, they can rebrand it as the Coyotes again. So they've been putting all these feelers out for, what do you want the team name to be? And the same jokes always come up. The main joke that I repeatedly see is the Soakers. So the Utah Soakers. And I saw it so many times that I eventually decided to just look it up. And apparently in the Mormon religion, and I don't know how much of this is factual or if it's just kind of like hyperbole and wives' tales or whatever, but I think the Catholics do, like, they're not allowed to have sex before marriage, so their loophole is to do butt sex, if I'm not mistaken. But legend has it that the Mormons have their own version of this, and it's called soaking, that they just insert and don't thrust. And in this myth or whatever it is, or maybe it's a real thing, as long as you don't thrust, you're good. It's not a sin. And then there's this other suggestion for the team name that I keep seeing, and it's the Jump Humpers. And the joke gets old after a while, but the first couple of times I saw it, it was pretty funny. But the Jump Humpers, which jump humping is even more of a myth, I think, than soaking. Jump humping is when you start soaking with your girlfriend or whatever, insert it, leave it in there, and your buddy jumps up and down on the bed. And because you're not actually thrusting and the buddy who's jumping up and down on the bed is doing the action, you're not actually sinning. Even though you're getting the pleasure of sex, you're not actually doing the thrusting yourself. So therefore, it is not your fault. It is your friend's fault who's jumping up and down on the bed that there are thrusts happening. It's pretty funny. I don't know how much of it's true, but it is local lore here that you can soak and jump hump without it being sin. It's kind of funny. But I will say that I have never heard people talk about masturbation so much as I have since I've moved to Utah. Usually by ex-Mormons who grew up in the church. Because Mormons aren't allowed to have sex before marriage. And Mormons aren't supposed to masturbate either. I don't know how it works. But, you kind of hear these nightmare stories where ex-Mormons tell you, it's like, I grew up in the church and the bishops would, or whatever they're called, I don't even know what they're called in the Mormon church, the church leadership would come up to us and have private conversations with us where they'd ask us, like, are you masturbating? That's none of your business, is what the ex-Mormons would say. That's like traumatic for them. Are you sexually active? Are you masturbating? These are literally stories that I've heard from people, so that's true. And I got to thinking, what are the benefits of not having sex before marriage or not masturbating before marriage? And I think there are some. Like, I think that the point of that whole philosophy of no sex before marriage is to make you want it so much that you'll only get it from the love of your life, the woman you marry or the husband you marry or whatever. And they say that's why Mormons get married so young, is because they just can't wait to have sex so badly that they'll just marry right out of high school, like at age 18. And I think about what the pros and cons of that are. I mean, I'm a pretty conservative dude on this subject matter. Theoretically, not so much in practice. Let me put it this way. I understand the conservative perspective on this. Like, I can't think of any greater gift to a guy, to a man, to a husband than to be the only one who has ever had sex with your future wife. Never having to think about all the other guys who've been with your woman before you. And what a special gift that is when it's that meaningful to you that you would only give it up to one person. I think the downside to that might be you'd be so eager to get married that you would marry the first person you met, and maybe they aren't the best person for you. Who knows? But I also think about how it's affecting society in general, well, not even the Mormon population, but the greater society of the world, of at least the United States, where pornography is readily available to everybody, just anybody and everybody at any age. Oh, before you enter this website, are you 18? Yes. That's all you have to do, yes. And Utah, I think, was the first one to do this, but right around the time I moved here, they made it so that websites like Pornhub have to actually check your ID before they let you visit their website. So if I'm not mistaken, Pornhub just completely pulled out of Utah. Sometimes it's just best to pull out. But I remember having conversations with people on Reddit back before I was banned about how is this a bad thing that you have to give an ID before you are able to watch pornography? I mean, it's 18 and up, right? Except for the loophole of the internet, who just, all they do, like if you were to go to a porn shop or something like that, they would, or even go to, I don't know, a video store like in the old days and ask for a rated R movie, they'd check your ID. But online, all they do is say, are you old enough? Yes. Little Timmy. Yes. Poor little Timmy. Saw some shit. Long before his time. And people were defending that so irrationally. It's like, no, little kids should see porn. Like people on Reddit. Like those people don't get banned. But me, I get banned for saying that transgender ideologies are mental illness. But the people who say little kids should be able to watch porn, they're cool. And I'm like, what's the problem here? Why is it that you're so reluctant to let people check your ID before you enter a porn site? And these people are like, I don't want the government knowing what I'm watching. I don't want them to have my ID. Like they don't already. Like they don't know who you are. They absolutely know who you are. And you handing over your ID doesn't give them any more insight than they already had. They know where the IP address is. They know exactly who's doing it. They probably see you scroll over to Facebook or Twitter or whatever afterwards. I mean, all the information is there. If you don't think that, I don't think you probably realize how intricate the tracking activity of internet websites are. I would say all that information is probably handed right over to the government anyway, if I had to guess. But people are against it. People are against enforcing age limits on porn sites. So basically what you're getting is a bunch of little kids who grew up on porn before they ever touched a boob. And that's like the opposite extreme of jump hopping and and soaking, and all that stuff that's going on in the Mormon church. So less people are getting married, less people are in relationships these days. And I don't think it's a coincidence. I mean, why put up with the opposite sex when you can get the virtual version of it online for free? So maybe the Mormons are onto something. Forcing you to want sex so badly that you'll invest in the person that you're wanting to stick it in, And I was thinking about this and I was curious. I mean, what effects does masturbation have on a person? Does it do something that would make you want to stay single? So I looked it up, and my first result was the Cleveland Clinic. The clevelandclinic.org. Masturbation. Facts and benefits. What are the benefits of masturbation? This website says. It reduces stress. It relieves tension. It improves sleep. It increases your focus. It boosts your moods. It alleviates aches and pains, which I didn't know about that. It enhances your sex life, which I'm not sure exactly how they mean that. It prevents anxiety and depression. Sounds pretty good to me. 3 cheers for masturbation. Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray! Hip hip hooray!
For he's a jolly good fellow, for he's a jolly good fellow.
According to one study of married people, those who masturbated reported more orgasms, higher self-esteem, increased sexual desire, greater satisfaction with their marriage and sex life. But what are the side effects? Vision loss. I thought that was a myth. Oh, this is what it doesn't cause. Never mind, I misread that. Vision loss. I can't believe this is the Cleveland Clinic website. When I saw this, I'm like, oh, good Lord, this is too funny. This is going to be a podcast episode. I don't really want to do a podcast episode about masturbation, but this is too funny. Mental illness. It doesn't cause mental illness. It doesn't cause hairy palms. It doesn't cause vision loss. Shrinkage or curvature of your penis. Decreased sperm count. Erectile dysfunction. Lowered libido. And infertility. Guilt. And this is probably how the Mormons feel. You may feel guilty or shameful about masturbating. This may be due to religious, spiritual, or cultural beliefs. Scientifically, there's nothing immoral or wrong about masturbation. However, you may hear otherwise within certain circles. If you're feeling guilty, you may benefit from speaking to a sexual health therapist or a mental health counselor. They can help you move past feelings of guilt or shame. Okay, then it talks about basically sex addiction and masturbation addiction. Minor physical harm. You're doing it wrong. Oh man, I swear I saw another one here. This is from a different one. I guess I remember reading 2 different articles last night. And for those who are living alone, says InStyle.com. And for those who are living alone, masturbation can double as a way of combating feelings of loneliness and isolation. At a time when being intimate with somebody who does not live with us is not an option, masturbation can be the only safe way to feel sexually connected to ourselves and to others. Okay, but so here's where I'm wondering. Here's where I'm curious about this subject. Are the Mormons right?
Is masturbation good or evil? Find out next time on the Great Big Intergalactic. Same masturbation time, same masturbation place. But seriously, I got a phone call and I had to go do some other things, so I got distracted and I'll follow up another time. Alright, part 1. That was part 1 of masturbation. Masturbation part 1. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the show. The Great Big Intergalactic can be heard on Spreaker, Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, Apple iTunes, and anywhere else that podcasts can be heard. If social media is your thing, you can follow the program on Facebook or Twitter. If you enjoy the show, upvote, share, like, and subscribe. Whenever and wherever those things can be done. If you'd like to send feedback, the easiest way to do that is to email the show at tgbiuniverse@gmail.com, TGBI as in the Great Big Intergalactic, or you can leave a voicemail at 216-200-7940. Contributions could include written feedback, audio submissions, voicemails, or potentially even live guests. It was great having you today, and see you next time.